The fact that she went to Howard University, and Howard was an all-black male university at one time, but they wouldn't allow her to write her law degree until she was in her 60s, got her degree, and sued the university for sex discrimination. And number one, you go, girl.
We should do more and talk less. This was the message that 25-year-old black American woman Mary Ann Shadd wrote in a lengthy letter sent in 1848 to abolitionist and African-American statesman Frederick Douglass, who had asked readers of his North Star newspaper for suggestions on improving life for black Americans.
Though this was the beginning of Mary Ann's legacy, she was already aware of the anti-slavery movement, and even a part of it because her parents helped with the Underground Railroad.
Mary Ann expressed this opinion of doing something instead of saying something because she was frustrated with the little progress of the anti-slavery movement under the leaders at the time, so she took matters into her own hands. In 1850, after the Fugitive Slave Act would be passed, Mary Ann Shadd Cary would move to Canada in order to help refugees. She would also openly tell fugitive slaves to flee the United States for their safety. In 1851, Mary Ann opened a school for the refugee population in Canada, and there she taught integrated classes 100 years before Brown versus the Board of Education. In 1853, Shadd Cary published her newspaper, The Provincial Freeman. She was one of the first women in America to publish a newspaper, and the very first woman in North America to do so.
This noon, the Wilmington Post Office will now be known as the Mary Ann Shadd Cary Post Office. There was a dedication ceremony today to honor the anti-slavery activist, journalist, and publisher. The Wilmington native was the first black woman publisher in North America, the first female publisher in Canada. Mary Ann Shadd Cary was also the first black woman to attend law school in the United States. Lots of firsts.
In her new home of Canada, she gave lectures, ran bazaars to raise funds. She was a teacher. She had that newspaper. She was a busy woman.
Within her newspapers, Mary Ann Shadd Cary would become a voice for the feminist ideals. She joined the anti-slavery lecture circuit and would speak in many Midwestern states. This helped her to work alongside other anti-slavery feminist lecturers like Lucy Stone and Lucretia Mott.
In 1855, Shadd Cary moved her newspaper from Toronto to Chatham, where most free black people and fugitives were living. Here, more people would listen to her, leading her newspaper to have a bigger impact. Shadd Cary became yet again the first black woman to do something. This time, it was for being admitted as a corresponding member to a convention of African Americans in Philadelphia in the year 1855. She was such a great lecturer that she was put at the center of these important discussions.
After President Lincoln sent out a call for thousands of men to join the Union Army, she went to Indiana in the summer of 1863, where she became a recruiting officer to enlist black volunteers.
Throughout the late 60s and 70s, Shadd Cary continued to fight for women's rights, and she was a suffragette. In the 1870s, before the House Judiciary Committee, Mary Ann argued that the 14th and 15th Amendments to the Constitution, which give people the right to vote, should be extended to women. Preach.
As a suffragette, in 1878, she spoke to the convention of the National Women's Suffrage Association. In 1883, Mary Ann made history yet again as the first woman to graduate from Howard University.
Throughout the 1880s, Cary continued her fight for women's voting rights and freedom for black people. In 1887, Mary Ann Shadd Cary and one other black male were included at the annual Congress of the Association for the Advancement of Women in New York. She was the only black woman there. Only one there, because she's just so amazing that in a horrible world, she was there. And lastly, Mary Ann Shadd Cary was one of the first black lawyers to advocate for women's rights to vote and was part of the reason for women gaining the right to vote in 1920. That is what we call a true American hero.